Okay, Cal, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Cal Songmaker. My legal name is Michael Ziesing with a Z. So that's how my name will appear on the ballot when I run for United States Senate on the Green Party in California.
Okay, excellent. And then what district are you running in?
That's the U.S. Senate, so it's the entire state of California,
Oh,
but I
this is
am in
right.
Tehama County
Oh,
at the
I see.
first
So you
congressional
you're running for
district, but
U.S. Senate. I thought you were running for state Senate.
no, no, I'm
Oh,
going for the whole 9 yards here. I'm serious. I'm not fooling around. I want to change Washington.
okay. And then who's your who are you running against?
Well, I don't believe the Republicans have a candidate yet. The Democrat candidate is Dianne Feinstein.
Dianne Feinstein. Okay, excellent. So, um, how about you just tell us a little bit about yourself? I know that you were a veteran. Can you tell us a
Yes,
little bit about that?
I'm a veteran. I was in the United States Navy. I have a long resume. That's because I'm old. Obviously, as you can see from the video here, I'm a U.S. veteran. My mother and father both were in the military. My dad retired from the Army. I went to college on the GI Bill. Then I went to graduate school because I managed to get a fellowship. I was a small businessman for many years, owning an independent bookshop. After basically attack on independent bookshops by book butchers chains, I was an adjunct philosophy instructor at the various institutions in Connecticut. And that means that I had to work a lot of hours, didn't have any benefits, didn't have any security. So I'm familiar with that too. I finally became an expatriate. I lived in Thailand for about 15 years, where I was an English professor at a university there. When I came back to the United States, I moved to the mountains, Shingletown, California, to take care of my mother. I was a single father then, so I am familiar with being a single parent. I also was extremely poor. I was on welfare for a while. I know that scenario. I'm not on welfare now. I'm on Social Security now. And I'm still on food stamps. I'm well below the poverty level. So I'm familiar with that. So I've experienced in my long life a whole lot of different things.
Okay, so let me go back. So let's talk about you're a veteran. When did you serve?
Yes. Sorry you cut out on me,
I'm
Michael.
sorry. So you're a veteran. What conflict did you serve in?
Well, I was in the service during the Vietnam War. I don't claim to be a hero or anything else. I was stationed at the Naval Hospital in Philadelphia for a while, and then I was on a ship, a submarine tender, and that is the primary aspect of my military service. I saw hundreds, probably thousands of veterans coming back from the Vietnam War, with not only physical wounds, but mental wounds as well. The Philadelphia Naval Hospital was a center for amputees and a center for psychiatry too.
Okay, okay. And so during that time, you participated in some anti-war activism.
Yeah, well, I was opposed to the war. I became as knowledgeable as I could about it. I guess the main thing that I did was during that period, there was something called the moratorium against the Vietnam War. It was the first one. I was unable to go because I was on a ship that was based in Key West, Florida. So I supported that. I did wear a black armband on my white uniform the day of the moratorium. I was told to take it off, and I did take it off rather than go to the brig or get kicked out of the service. So once again, no heroic things, just basic participation there. I supported the candidacy of Eugene McCarthy of Minnesota, a senator from Minnesota. He was running against Lyndon Johnson. That's a long time, probably before most viewers were born, but that's because of my age.
And then, so that's very interesting. So, and then after that, you went into where did you get your education?
I went from Key West, Florida, up to Moorhead, Minnesota. That's right on the border with Fargo. I went to Moorhead State University. It was a state college at the time, and I got a bachelor's degree in philosophy there at Moorhead State. And after that, I went to the University of Connecticut in Storrs, where I got a master's degree in philosophy as well.
Okay, excellent. And then I think you just took your son to college, right? Or you're there with him now?
Yes, that's why I'm in Tennessee. This is not my home. This is a small apartment in an old building, old house that's been divided into apartments. And I'm about ready to head back to California. I brought my son out here to East Tennessee State University, where luckily he has a scholarship, or we couldn't afford college for him at all. It's a struggle as it is, but it's possible because of the scholarship. I'm going back to California. I'm leaving on Monday, and I plan to go into California via El Centro. That's in the far southern part of the state. And I plan on driving the entire length of the distance, north and south, up to Red Bluff, California, where my home is. So I will eventually have traversed the entire north-south corridor on mostly on I-5, but I'm happy to make slight detours to meet with people who would like to do that.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So let me see. You were a business owner. You had a bookstore. Is that correct?
Yes, I had a bookstore for a number of years in Willimantic, Connecticut.
Uh-huh. And so this brings up an interesting point. You're a veteran. You're a master's. You're a business owner, and still it was hard for you to earn a living in your later years, I guess.
Well, yeah, in my later years, after I came back from Thailand, I was okay income-wise when I lived in Connecticut. Not, I would say lower middle class. But health insurance was a problem. So, but I do have small business experience. I totally support small businesses. I do have a professional experience because of being a philosophy teacher and an English teacher in Thailand. I have experience being poor. I have obviously experience being old and on Social Security. I've done a lot of things. After high school, I worked in the fields as a farm worker, so I know something about that. I worked at a place called DeWitt State Hospital in Auburn, California, also when I was young, before I went in the Navy. That was a psychiatric hospital, now closed. When you get to be as old as I am, you've done a number of things.
Sure, sure. So, you are American Eskimo, is that correct?
Yes, I'm a native Alaskan. I'm a member of a tribe in Alaska, legally and completely covered and provable to anyone. Genetically, I am not 100% Eskimo. My grandmother was.
I see. Okay, okay. And then you're running as a Green Party member. I think
That's
previously,
right.
yeah, I think previously you were with the Peace and Freedom Party. Can you tell us about the transition and how you chose your parties?
Yeah, that's pretty easy. I've almost never, with a few exceptions, I've almost never voted for Democrats or Republicans. Um, I've always been drawn to alternatives because I think they offer a better future and a better present for Americans. And so when I came back to the United States from Thailand, I registered with the Peace and Freedom Party because I'm a lifelong leftist person. I investigated things and studied things and decided that the Peace and Freedom Party was it. I thought about the Green Party and liked a lot of their things. And actually, I think I did vote for the Green Party one year. That's kind of a toss-up. I guess I would say that the Peace and Freedom Party is slightly more radical, which appeals to me. But the Green Party now, I think, thanks in part to Bernie Sanders' campaign, and I did support Bernie Sanders, has really got its head screwed on straight. And if you look over the 10 values of the Green Party of the United States, I think that at least if you're a left-leaning person, you will find a home in the Green Party. I totally support those values. I'm very comfortable being a Green. I changed from the Peace and Freedom Party over to being a Green because I was asked to consider it by a candidate for supervisor. I got in touch with Eric Rydberg, who sort of talked about it with me as well. So I changed over to a Green Party, and I think they have the best chance of alternative parties of winning. And we're together, we're all going to put a Green Party member in the United States Senate.
Excellent. I like that. I like that. Okay, so I think one of the things that is very important to California right now is the debate about universal health care, or Senate Bill 562. Can you tell us about your stance on healthcare, and then maybe just talk about healthcare for a little while, what it means to California?
Well, sure. I mean, it's easy for me to talk about that, but I'll go into a little bit more detail if you want me to.
Please.
I believe it's an absolute disgrace that the United States, which of course includes California, does not have universal health care. Every other, even moderately advanced country has universal health care. Thailand, when I lived there, Thailand has universal health care. We need it in the United States for any number of reasons, not just because people get sick, injured, and obvious things like that, but we need it because the healthcare system is broken. People can't get proper health care. People are dying. People are sick. Children are dying and they're sick. And this needs to stop. If we don't stop that, if we can't stop that, then we might as well check out of the planet because we don't care about other human beings. And we need to care. We need to care about suffering. We need to care about sickness. And I completely and totally support universal health care for everyone. And by everyone, I mean everyone.
Excellent. Excellent. And then Jill Stein, when she ran, she was for free college tuition. Is that similar to your views in terms of education in the United States?
I am totally for free college education. And in addition to that, I am for complete forgiveness of all student loans. There's no reason why that can't be done. And somewhere, if some conservative is listening to this, rumbling around in their head is, well, how is this joker going to pay for all of this stuff? Well, that's paid for in several ways. First of all, and most obviously, is it's paid for by slashing the military budget, which is way over the top, way over the top. Look, like the Green Party, one of the values, we do have the right to defend ourselves, but we don't need to, and we don't have the right to be bombing people, innocent people, droning people. That's wrong. It needs to stop. And it is, of course, expensive. That's one way you pay for all of this. Another way you pay for this is you tax corporations. The corporate tax has done nothing but been cut lower and lower and lower and lower over the years. Corporations virtually own the United States. They need to be taxed. They're benefiting from all kinds of things that they're basically not paying for. Some of them aren't paying for them at all because they have offshore companies. They don't pay any taxes at all. Offshore companies need to be taxed to the fullest extent. And finally, there are things that also can generate money, like large, humongous mega churches with vast quantities of money and real estate holdings need to pay taxes. I'm not talking about the little corner church down there with 20 people who go to church on Sunday. I'm talking about places like, well, everyone is familiar with Texas, Osteen's church, right? There's a humongous mega church in Redding, California. And these places aren't paying taxes, and I just like to know why, and I'd like to put a stop to that.
I'm glad you said that. I think that's something that slips through the cracks, is the tax exemption that churches get and the huge amounts of wealth that they are allowed to accumulate because of that. I like that point of view. So this kind of leads to kind of another interesting subject, is I think a lot of these corporations are able to gain so much money and power because they influence our politicians. What do you think about money in politics and the way we finance our campaigns?
Well, I think that corporate donations to take take any corporate donations. I don't think any corporations would want to give me any money anyway, but if they tried to give me some money, I would refuse it. And if after I'm elected with everyone's help, and we will be the United States senator, I won't take any money there. I won't be involved with lobbyists. I won't take favors, speaking engagements. I am against corporations getting involved in politics. That's one of the many reasons why drug prices are so high in this country. That's one of the reasons why we have a very powerful lobby in the NRA, and the list, of course, is endless. Monsanto and on and on and on.
Right, right. So the other thing I think that corporations are able to do by contributing to politicians is keep wages down. And I really think they were able to break the unions. Can you talk about what's your position on a living wage and the rights of people to collective bargaining with unions?
Sure. I totally support unions, particularly the rank and file, not necessarily union bosses. I was disappointed when the powers that be at the nurses union endorsed Hillary Clinton when it was obvious that the rank and file were behind Bernie Sanders. I think that they did a great disservice to the rank and file members of the nurses union. I believe in collective bargaining. I believe in a minimum, in a living wage. As far as the minimum wage goes, sure, I support the $15 an hour minimum wage, but I don't think that's enough. I think it needs to be higher than that. If it had kept up with inflation, the minimum wage would be over $20 an hour. I think it should be that. And I don't think it ought to be one of these deals where it's done in tiny little steps over the course of 5 or 10 years or something like that. People need help now. In California, the minimum wage is higher. At the moment, I am here in Tennessee, once again, leaving on Monday. The minimum wage is $7.50 an hour. And people are supposed to live on that. I mean, I just can't conceive of that. Yeah, the things are a little bit cheaper here, but they're not that much cheaper here. And it's a shame. So in terms of your questions, living wage, support unions, and collective bargaining.
Yes, yes, very good. Tell us about your views on the environment. That's one of the 4 pillars is for the Green Party is people, planet, and peace. So how do you feel about fracking, pipelines? Of course, there was the Dakota Access Pipeline, and then just recently there was the Keystone Pipeline leak. Can you talk about those things?
Yeah, okay, well, the environment. First of all, global warming is true. It's obvious. Anybody who thinks that it isn't is living in la la land. And it needs to be stopped now. Already in Alaska and coastal Alaska, where the village that my ancestors are from, the sea levels are rising. Towns are being flooded from the ocean. So it needs to stop immediately. In terms of pipelines, I'm opposed to all pipelines, including the natural gas pipeline that is possibly going to be put in through Southern Oregon and Northern California. That needs to stop immediately. It's natural gas pipeline. It's from fracking the earth, which I'm also opposed to. So yeah, global warming's true. Pipelines need to be closed down and dismantled, and fracking needs to stop. It's disgraceful that the governor of California doesn't have a problem with fracking. I urge people to vote for the Green Party for governor as well.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, how about we wrap up with this last topic? Right now in the United States, we see a lot of hate crimes. We see a lot of white supremacy rallies. How can we address that?
Well, how can we address it? Well, first of all, let me say that my experience with that goes back a long time too. When I lived in Connecticut, the Klan came to a small town called Scotland, Connecticut. I helped put together a coalition of different groups to demonstrate against the Klan. I think that peaceful demonstrations need to take place with all Klan, Nazi, right-wing hate groups, and that I think that we need to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law all hate crimes. Those are crimes, obviously, involving not just African American people, but Native American people, Asian people, gay people, trans people, anything involving hatred. And let's face it, we do know when it's hate. The guy who ran over and killed a person here just north of me here in Virginia, he's a murderer, and it's hate murder. And this stuff needs to be stopped. There need to be stricter laws, of course, but most certainly we need to, at the very minimum, enforce the ones that are in place now.
Yes. And do you think there's racism in our police departments, and do we need to do some work there?
Yeah, look, it's no coincidence that that a vast majority of killings by police are against African American people. I will point out that the percentage-wise, the highest number of police killings are against Native Americans. So Native Americans know what that's like, and we know what's going on, and it's disgraceful that people who are essentially murderers, they have a license or a badge to kill. We need to prosecute those people and make sure that they aren't set free. Frankly, I think something's really fishy when policeman after policeman gets off the hook for killing a minority person. I do want to say that I think there are a lot of really good police. The town that I come from, Red Bluff, has an excellent police department. The sheriff's department in Tehama County is very good. I have friends who are retired from the sheriff's department. I have friends who are in the police department. So I'm not making a blanket statement about all police, but the ones that are bad apples need to be, they need to not get in there in the first place. If they do get in, they need to be weeded out. And if they commit crimes, they need to go to prison.
Yes. And I think that unfortunately, it's the bad incidences that get publicized, and that's what we see the most. Okay,
Yes.
Cal, I thank you for doing this interview. I think you don't have a web page right now, but you do have a Facebook page. Do you want to tell us what that is, and so that people can go there and get to know you?
Yes, my Facebook page. This will help people with the name issue too, because there might be some confusion about that. My Facebook page is Cal, C-A-L, like California. Michael Ziesing, Songmaker. I think I might have switched that around. I think it's Michael Cal Songmaker Ziesing. Okay, so Michael Cal Songmaker Ziesing with a Z.
Okay.
For a Senate.
Actually, I forgot a couple of subjects. You want to talk a little bit about Donald Trump and his candidacy right now?
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I mean, it's probably pretty obvious what my feeling about Donald Trump is. If people have listened to even a minute or two of this interview, I think that the best that we could possibly say about Donald Trump is that he's not qualified for the job. I would go further than that and say that he is dismantling the United States, that he's probably a bigot, that he is for the rich, that he seems to have us on the verge of nuclear war, and I think that Donald Trump ought to be impeached. If I'm elected to the Senate, I will do what I can to help that move along.
Awesome. Excellent. And then how about your opponent, Dianne Feinstein?
Okay. I don't really like to say bad things about people who at least occasionally vote correctly. She's voted incorrectly a whole lot of the time too. But Dianne Feinstein has had her time. She's had her chance. Dianne Feinstein is someone who, the last I saw on Wikipedia, is worth somewhere around $99 million. That does not include her husband's money, and he's probably a billionaire, but he's at the very least a multi-millionaire. That shows that that they're part of the problem as far as I'm concerned. And she's at the very best a liberal Democrat, and we know what liberals do. For younger people, they might want to listen to a song by Phil Oakes called "Love Me, I'm a Liberal." Oakes is O-C-H-S. It was also done by Jello Biafra, the former lead singer for the Dead Kennedys. If you kind of updated it, that's on YouTube too, as far as I know. So liberals are corporate politicians, and I think Dianne Feinstein is a corporate politician.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll end on that. And again, I thank you for doing the interview, Cal. And I think you'll make a great senator. And I hope to see you in 2019 celebrating. I'm sorry. In 2019 celebrating your victory over Dianne Feinstein.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Michael. And you'll be invited to that celebration.
Excellent. Okay, Cal. Take care. Safe trip back to California too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.